we understand the power of family and we understand the power of parents. Parents will have influence in the heart and life of a kid, whether it's good influence or bad influence. Surely because of the amount of time that parents and kids and families will be together, there will be influence there. You will only have about 40 hours in a given year as a small group leader if you invest in these kids. And let's say you take them to a Camp Kid Jam or another camp, we can double that to 80 if you want to, but you still have a limited number of hours that you're going to have with a kid that you're going to spend with them. That's represented by this. The family, by default, is going to have 3,000 hours in a given year. And so you just got to recognize the magnitude and the impact that family will have in the life and heart of a kid. That's just going to be by sheer nature of the way family is designed. They're going to have influence. Now, here's the point. The point is, if you're going to have influence in the life of a kid, you can't just ignore the family. You've got to understand that it's important for you to partner with the family in every way you possibly can if you want to have more and more influence. I actually think one of the greatest ways to partner with a family is not even by creating programs, but it's by leveraging the small group leader to see their role with the individual few or the individual kid or the few they have as a connected thing to the family and the parents. So they're asking the question. So you as a small group leader is asking the question, how can I partner with this family and how can I partner with a parent? For example, you should think in terms of having of your student ministry an open house at the beginning of the year where you bring the small group leaders and the parents together and you say, hey, this is what our scope and cycle is going to be this next year. Here's what we're going to cover with students. We wanted you as a parent to know. We wanted the small group leader to know. We wanted you as a parent to meet the small group leader so you guys can understand that they're going to be involved in your kids' lives. But here's the truth. Maybe 30% of your parents will show up to that. Right? Because I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. We've tried it. 30% showed up. What if I could raise that to 90% with one idea? You say, tell me. Okay, I'm going to tell you. You ready for this? If Gail, who's in charge of 6 or 9 7th grade girls or 5th grade girls or whatever her role is, decides with the other 60 or 70% of parents that didn't show up that she's going to invite some of them personally to Starbucks to sit down and say, oh, by the way, this is what they gave us. This is, we're going to talk about scope and cycle. And she invites those parents into a personal, invitation-driven experience. I guarantee your percentage will shoot up to about 90% because I've very rarely met a parent who got a phone call from someone who said, listen, I'm going to be your small group, your son or daughter small group leader for the next year, and I would love to just hang out with you for 15 minutes to just tell you what we're going to talk about. But it means you're leaning into the small group leaders and you're saying, this is something we need you to understand as part of your job description because we got to partner with parents. There's some practical application stuff here I just want you to make sure you understand and you see here. It means you cue the parent, which is kind of what I just described and explained, that you're helping the parent know what is happening in the life of their kid and their son and their daughter so they understand the plan and so they understand the strategy, so they understand when camp registration is going to happen or what's going to happen at camp, or they understand what the plan is going to be this next month in content and curriculum as you're teaching their kids. So you leverage your life as a simple way to send an email, to send a text. By the way, one of the greatest ways, and I know that you talked about this today, is using Facebook to leveraging it to cue the parent. It also means that you honor the parent. It means that parents understand, don't miss this, parents understand that you're not their enemy, that you're on their side. There's a story that Chef, who wrote the Lead Small book with us, who's a middle school director, tells about a girl that called her small group leader upset and angry because she just had a knockdown drag out with her parents over grades. She'd had a bad report card, she got a knockdown drag out with her parents, walked out of the room, went up to her bedroom, slammed the door, and called her small group leader. So here's the small group leader on the phone talking to this daughter about her unreasonable parents, obviously. And in the conversation, the small group leader was wise enough, even though the small group leader was a college student, she understood this principle. She was wise enough to say, well, you know what, I've met your mom before, and I don't think your mom is your enemy here. And why do you think, she started asking questions, why do you think your mom got upset, and do you feel like you pushed through, and is there a better strategy we could come up with? And so, to make a long story short, in the conversation she was having with this teenage girl, They came up with a plan and a strategy. She changed the way this girl saw the conversation happening with her parents. The girl walks back downstairs and says to her parents, listen, I've been on the phone with my small group leader. I feel like I overreacted. You're right. We talked about a plan to improve my grades. What if we do this? Now, how do you think that changed or affected the attitude her parents had toward the small group leader in the church? Simply because she honored the parent. Don't make the mistake in your ministry of leveraging yourself as the hero and the parent or the family is not the hero. Because when you help the family win, you help the parent win, you help the student win. Now, are there situations where parents are abusive and wrong? Oh, absolutely. But those are the exceptions. And we still need to look at those through a very, very careful filter. But ultimately, at the end of the day, when families and parents know you're honoring their family, and that also means that you reinforce the family. This is some practical tips here, just practical tips. That means you don't plan your gathering for your small group on Christmas Eve. You get it? And that you understand the power of doing that and leveraging that in the right way. Another illustration related to this has to do with a girl who grew up in our student ministry who's one of our greatest volunteers. She worked with kids and she worked in our Kid Stuff production. You met this girl. She is just the dream of a teenage volunteer. She's just unbelievable. She came to me her senior year in high school. Her name is Caitlin, and she said, I have a dilemma. Nobody really knows this. I need to talk to you about something, but I've never been baptized. She said, I'm a Christian. I believe in Jesus, but the reason I've never been baptized is because my mother will absolutely go crazy if she thinks I'm going to get baptized because she hates this church and she hates Christianity. And I don't know how to handle it, but I feel like before I graduate, before I walk away, I want to get baptized. What do I do? So I said, here's the thing. I don't know really exactly how to navigate through the waters with your mom and your relationship with her and how that relates to this, but I would at least like for you to go back and sit down with your mom and have a discussion. Have a conversation about the fact that you want to be baptized, and we'll baptize you, but I just want you to have a conversation with her about it. She comes to me the next week and she says, okay, I talked to my mom. She's cool with it. I'm going to do it. I want to be baptized. And so we do this thing called birthday celebration where we have, all the kids and teenagers who've made decisions to trust Christ. We put their story on video, then we baptize them. It's this big, gigantic production. We have birthday cake. We have the small group leaders there. We have family there. It's a packed auditorium just around the idea of here are kids who've said they've trusted Christ, and we want to make it a big deal. At the end of it, we invite, the parents and the small group leaders to gather around, the person they've come to watch, and we have this prayer of dedication. So we get to the end of this birthday celebration. Caitlin's on the stage with these other kids and teenagers. She's standing there, and I invite the small group leader and whoever is significant in her life to come stand with her and with the other kids. And in the back row, I see this lady get up and start walking down the aisle, carrying a dozen roses. It's Caitlin's mom. And she walks down the aisle, up the stairs, onto the platform. And she stands there with small group leaders and with other people, and she listens to them pray for her daughter. And for a moment in time, this mother who doesn't even like our church, who doesn't even believe in who Christ is, has this spiritual connection with her daughter because she didn't want to miss it. I got in the car and I'm driving home, and the only thing I could think in my mind is, she would have missed it. She would have missed it. I just think it's important that we understand how to do what we do in the context of inviting parents and inviting families in for the ride. Sure, sometimes they're not going to show up, but what if they do?